this winter because I want to put can excel and the same color than the one from my house, and it's not available right now. So I might basically just put what's called Tyvek. So it's a kind of a plastic, to protect the observatory from moisture and stuff like that. So I might just have to leave it like that for the whole winter. Unless I'm lucky and I can get the can excel basically the same color of my house before the winter. So I'm going to be able to finish it, but right now it doesn't look good.
I mean, if you get it closed up, you could just run off a battery for a while, just over the winter.
I'm planning probably the second the water done and I have a roof, even if the rest is not done. I'm gonna call I'm gonna start to dig and call the electrician to connect the power. So yeah, I want to have the power by the end of October. So I'm hoping to have everything running, at least partially operational by the end of October. So that is my plan. But again, I didn't order my Paramount yet. I'm going to do that probably in the next week or two. So, but I got told that if I put an order, I will get it probably in about 6 weeks, between 4 and 6 weeks. So, timeline still good.
So that's information from the dealer or from BISC?
From the dealer that basically did contact BISC. And he said, if you put an order right now, they're not in a rush. There's no really back order, they're still producing. So, so they said it's going to be about 4 and 6 weeks before you get it in Montreal. And probably I'm just going to drive there to, instead of, shipping everything here, with the scope and all that stuff, I might just drive there and pick it up in Montreal and come back with it. Yeah, so we'll see. Everything's going slow, but it's going. And like I said, I was hoping to get a contractor, but didn't happen. So I'm doing everything by myself. So it's going to be a big learning curve.
Yeah, I hope your timeline works out for you. You just never know when you start embarking on something like this.
You're right. And you know what? I already changed my plan already 10 times. So I'm sure it's going to change. But
it's okay. You're retired. It's okay.
Yeah. On the concrete, I was planning to put G-bolt, but I didn't have my plan, for the wall. So I could not basically put the G-bolt. So now that I got the plan done, so I said, oh, it's too late to put the G-bolt. It's already there. So I look at a couple options, to use the expansion bolt, to anchor the wall on the concrete. When they expand, if it's too close to the edge, it might crack. So that is out of the option. So I said, hey, so what I can do? So, there's Tapcon bolts, but they just come in two sizes, 1/4 and 3/8. So it's not really big. And I got told that it's really good, but I don't trust that. So Wednesday, I'm gonna probably just drill the concrete. I'm just gonna put bolts, 1/2 inch stud, and I'm just gonna use epoxy, and I'm just gonna glue it there. So we'll see how that.
Did you get a lot of snow where you are in the winter month? Do you get snow?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be snow. Last year, my fence in the backyard, it's just about 6 feet. I had snow about close to the top by, I would say, mid-March. So I'm expecting I'm gonna have to shovel a lot this winter to keep my observatory, clear of the snow.
So you see, Gary, other people have different problems with their observatories than you have.
Why some people got some issues?
You're muted, Gary.
Yeah, Gary did a panic replacement of metal, right, Gary?
Oh, yes, very big panic replacement. Very
Oh,
big.
yeah.
Wildfires. No
Yeah.
snow, wildfires instead.
Oh, yeah?
And wind.
Yep. And finally, after 10 years, I've got it going, I think. Michelle. So don't get discouraged, okay?
Welcome, everyone, to Victoria Centre's Astro Cafe. We're just, for those who are visiting for the first time, joining us for the first time, it's kind of informal chat time, and we'll start in about 5 minutes to let some people arrive. If you've joined us late, we're just finding out Michelle, who's a center member, has returned to live in Quebec, and he's building an observatory at his property and is just, I guess, poured the concrete in the last week. So we're just checking in to find out where he's at. And Dennis, we're very curious. What's up with Dennis?
Yeah. What's up with Dennis? Come on, Dennis.
I'm channeling the 4% of my DNA that is Viking.
Excellent, excellent.
Oh, I thought it was, no, never mind. I thought it was a bull of some sort.
No, it's Viking. I got my horns.
Yeah.
It's
What
kind
are
of
your
hot.
other 96%?
Northwestern Europe, 12% Scottish.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess, my family's from Britain and the Channel Islands. So yeah, the Vikings came through whenever that I have that trace in me.
I don't know how much I believe that. I got mine done. I'm from Eastern Europe. My wife is from Western Europe, and our daughter got hers done, and she has some North African in there. So I don't think she has North African in there. So I'm kind of doubting whether these things are super accurate.
Yeah, I mean, everything fits with mine. I was a little surprised. I didn't think about having Norwegian or Viking in me, but I guess it's called plausible.
All right. So
Yeah,
that's-
the Vikings got around, and
They did.
their genes definitely made it to North America. I'm 15% Norwegian, apparently.
Oh, you're even more Norwegian than I am. Yeah.
Well, that's Ancestry's estimate.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it
yeah.
varies,
Come on, Joe, where are your horns?
Well, I guess I could put some horns on. I forgot how to do that now, but I think it's up here in the options, isn't it?
You have to
No,
lift your horns up.
it's something I'm calling usually something called a snap camera. So it does. I could do this. Yeah.
No, I like the other one.
That's pretty.
Very neat, yeah.
That's pretty.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh,
Yeah, and I like this one actually. It's pretty cool.
yeah.
It's
No,
like
not
called.
that one. Not that one. No. Dennis, I like you better with horns.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop this and see if I can go back to my regular camera here.
See, I was wondering if it was the pandemic look,
Yeah, now it's not gonna let me switch cameras. Well,
You could be like that lawyer guy and say, I'm really not a pig. Was it a pig that he was by accident or something? Down in the States, remember?
Oh, I think I saw that, yeah.
Well, there's been lots of gotchas when it comes to video conferencing, but we won't get into that subject.
Yeah, right.
yeah, no, it's everybody's learned a few lessons over the last year and a half or so.
So tell me, Dennis, is business going on purely online up at the observatory, or what's up with all the astronomers and stuff?
Most of us are working from home. People that are the engineers, technicians, people that need to be up there are probably up there quite a bit, probably every day. People go up once or twice a week. I go up once a week or so to keep scanning old photos and things. But as far as we know, we're still we're keeping that current situation for the foreseeable future. For most of the astronomers, working from home is no big, it's just no impact at all. Yeah,
I
it
wonder
has
how
its
that will-
advantages.
How will that impact our ability to go and do observing, do you think, I wonder?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, of course, the center of the universe is not open, so that's a big impact on Saturday nights, which everybody knows. Yeah, I think yeah, we're just got to see. I mean, it's way beyond my pay grade now. I mean, it's yeah, I just don't know. I would hope by next summer, by May, that things will be back where we can have regular programming up there on Saturday nights, and the center of the universe can be open, and everything will be back to sort of normal. But we'll have to see. Depends how many variants we get between now and then, I think.
Yeah, true.
Dennis,
As long as we don't hit the Andromeda strain, we're okay.
Dennis, who makes that decision? Who makes the decision about it being open or closed?
Ottawa, some level in Ottawa basically gives the big direction, the big decision on how NRC facilities operate. At some point, it may come down to a local decision, but with our employees, we're limited to the number of employees up there. Yeah, I mean, it's just not going to change anytime soon, although it could, but we would have to wait for cases to go down. I mean, I think, basically we, NRC, the government, don't want to be responsible for people catching COVID on our site. I mean, and I have to say NRC has done a very good job of making sure our employees are safe. We have to wear a mask at all times up there, even when we're in the office by ourselves. We just have there's a lot of protections in place. So I do appreciate that they are looking after our health and safety as a priority. I know the bicyclists are really upset because they can't.
Are they allowed to come up?
No, they're
bicyclists?
not. They're
No?
not, and they try and sneak in when you come and go through the gates. And
Yeah.
we put up,
Mhm.
big fencing, not quite razor wire yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, Sid, it's got extra fencing along each side now.
Oh,
So you used to be able to get around the gate, right? I mean, the gate was
Yes.
there, but you could just go around the left side of it from the outside, but now you can't do that anymore. You have to go over it.
yeah,
And with a
but
bicycle, that would be a challenge.
there is the trail coming from the back worse.
No,
That's
no,
blocked.
That's fenced off too.
That's all. Everything is the property line is fenced off. There's no way in other than the road. Unless you want to, it's got the fence and then it's angled towards the outside. So, it's to keep people out. It's not to keep us in when we show
Yeah.
up, but it's to keep people out.
Just put
Making
really
me
big
very-
speed bumps down there. That's the thing to do.
Well, I was going to say, I guess we could get started, but somebody was going to say something, so I'll let that finish.
I was just going to say, I think we're going to have people dressed up in bear suits, and that'll keep people away.
There we are, yes.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
You could get some stuffed cougars and put them in the trees where they can be seen.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I could tell you stories about how easy it is to get over barbed wire fences with 3 rows of concertina wire on the top.
Oh, the voice of experience.
Well, we had a jail in Grand Cache that had a double fence with barbed wire on the top. And they put the RCMP guys in it before it opened to test how hard it was for prisoners to get out over those 2 fences. 30 seconds. All they did was they took their bedding, threw it off over top of the barbed wire and used that to climb over.
Mhm.
Was that quick?
So bring some bedding if you want to get into on the hill.
There your sleeping bag. Go.
Yeah. Very good. Well, welcome again to Victoria Centre's Astro Cafe for August 16th. Thank you for joining us. We have some visitors from outside our center, as the main event this evening is Dennis's presentation on some of Plaskett's photographs that he's found. And so some people asked if they could attend, and that link had been passed on to them. After Dennis, I think Randy and or David had some things they might want to talk about. Sid had a few photos. We have a couple of photos from Edmonton, and John has some photos. Does anybody else have anything for this evening?
I'd just like a quick thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Lauri. Yes. Okay, and Lauri.
Do a couple of photos if you like, if there's time.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us. And so I think we're our main event is Dennis Crabtree, who's Director Emeritus of the Dominion Astrophysical Observatory. And I guess in the records that were there, as I understand it, you found some photographs, and you're going to show us some of these great.
Yes, and I've weaved it all into a story on the search for the site for the telescope. So
yeah.
Okay,
So if
so
you're ready to take it away, you.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and start PowerPoint here. And can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Right. So anybody here who's a real estate agent or is following real estate or whatever, but the mantra is location, location, location. Well, the same applies to where you put a telescope. Location, location, location. So our telescope is here on the left in Victoria, and the fellow in the front there is Thomas Tennant Hutchison, who was the head of, looked after the telescope, the dome, and was a night assistant as well. And he worked for the observatory for over 20 years, I believe. So I took this from an article by John Stanley Plaskett in the 1914 JRASC, just complimenting the government. And when they constructed this large telescope, it's been rendered doubly effective in the cause of science by placing it independently of any local or sectional influences. And I take that to be government and local interests and bribes and whatever else, where the best and most work can be done. So this was, I think quite an accomplishment. We have Halley's Observatory, which was in Oxford, in his house in Oxford. And while back then there weren't many, no street lights, or wasn't any rural light pollution, but still it was in his house, and it was, very convenient for him. You could just clear night. You could, if the clouds open, you could get up there right away. The Dominion Observatory was built in Ottawa, not the best site, but that was where the money was. And it was built on the outskirts of Ottawa when it opened. So it was fairly dark, but quickly, I believe, came, it's not a great site to begin with, but anyways, that's where the Dominion Observatory is. So for Plaskett, the dream, these are words of Plaskett I've taken from an article he wrote in 1913. The dream of the writer for a larger aperture or for a larger telescope was intensified when he attended this solar conference in Mount Wilson in 1910. So he had been doing the radial velocity work at the DO with the 15-inch, and he was eager to join in doing this work on fainter and fainter stars. And so there was this whole sense of cooperation among the astronomers, where the fainter stars would go to the people with the larger telescopes. But Plaskett, I think at this meeting, really galvanized on the fact that Canada needed a larger telescope. It was going to really pull its weight. So he came back to Ottawa, and this seemed to be, to the writers, to be such a splendid opportunity to take a prominent part in this important work, and one of the pressing needs in present day astronomy, and to place itself, for Canada, at the forefront among the nations. So he talked to his boss, William King, and King endorsed the plan heartily and gave Plaskett his big support. So here's a picture from the 1910 meeting of the Solar Union in 1910. They went up to Mount Wilson. I believe this is everybody getting ready for the group photo. And if you look over here, this is Charles Augustus Chant, who was also on the trip. So, There we go. We had a lot of people had cameras back then. He was always 1910, and this is probably the official photographer, but you can see a lot of other people are carrying cameras. So the second step was at a meeting of the Astronomical and Astrophysical Society of America, which now is called the American Astronomical Society, and that was held in Ottawa in the summer of 1911. And they passed a resolution highly commending the work of the observatory, that is the Dominion Observatory, and urging the need for a larger aperture. And this was transmitted to the minister, but just before an election and change of government, nothing happened. So they had a one-day excursion during the conference to Wakefield, and I have lots of photos of the excursion in Wakefield. And here's a photo of them climbing a hill, during the day, and there's Wakefield down below. The rail line runs right along the river. Here they all are decked out in their finery, sitting on the grass, enjoying the summer day. And the fellow on the right here is Pickering from the Harvard Observatory. So these, again, are just a sample of some of the photos. Again, for the Pasadena meeting and for this meeting, I have lots and lots more, but I just bring these into the storyline here. Now, this again, there's Plaskett's own words. In order, however, that such a telescope may be used, it may be able to turn out to be the highest class of work. It is of utmost importance that it be located where the astronomical conditions are most favorable. And he mentions that an investigation for this purpose is now being carried on. In order to correct what seems to be a quite prevalent misapprehension, I wish to state that the place having the largest quantity of clear night sky is not necessarily the best place, and this factor is in by no means the most important. So he lists the 4 factors that they considered: the image quality, the scene, the stability of the images, referring to the steadiness and sharp definition of the star image, the daily temperature gradient, especially the change of temperature during observing hours. Remember, these mirrors back then were made with crown glass and were quite sensitive to temperature changes. And so if the temperature was changing through the night, the shape of the mirror would change. You wouldn't have an image that was really in focus, and your spectrograph wouldn't be that efficient. The third one was the transparency of the sky and freedom from haze or smoke. Think forest fires and coal burning. And then the quantity of clear night sky. So those are the four factors. So what they did was they looked at meteorological records and looked at some sites across Canada that were possible, and just tried to compile some basic information to down select down to a reasonable number that they could investigate. So here's all the data. And you notice that the lowest temperature of all these places is in the minus degree signs Fahrenheit. Victoria is only at plus 20. So again, we're tropics of Canada here. So they picked 4 places: Medicine Hat, Banff, the Okanagan, and Victoria to investigate. So I'm just going to jump ahead a bit now, because this is 1930. This is taken from a paper by W.E. Harper, who actually did the site testing. So I thought this group would be interested in that. So he wrote that the principal instrument used was a 4.5-inch telescope, equatorial mounted. The telescope was equipped with eyepieces with various magnifying powers. And he also had a camera that took plates of a cabinet size, whatever that means, I don't know. So the whole program was mostly planned around visual work, but he decided it would be good to get some photographic data as well. So they chose a list of close double stars as a way, as was also a number of faint stars, about the limit for the telescope. So they wanted to understand what the resolution was of the site by looking at double stars, and they wanted to understand how faint they could go. So they had a number of faint stars to see if they could see those under the conditions they were going to be testing under. The theoretical limit for the size star disk for this telescope is about 1 arcsecond, but owing to unfavorable conditions of seeing, it is not often that this theoretical limit can be attained. However, there were several nights experienced so favorable that this limit was reached. Now, which sites did that happen at? Well, we'll see. So a little bit about the photographs. we have all those glass construction plates. The images I think everybody has seen that have been circulating for a number of years. And in the box of that, while I was planning on scanning these at very high resolution, I discovered a bunch of envelopes of prints and negatives, and these turned out to be photographs taken by JSP. And there's just a treasure trove of photographs there. I just list a few of the topics or the trips that he took where he took these photographs. So there's hundreds of them. And some of them are stereoscopic photos where the camera produced two images. It had two lenses and everything and focused in two separate images. You had ready-made images to put in a stereoscope to get a three-dimensional view. And Plaskett did use some of these photos in some of his articles. And there we have Chant again at the Lick Observatory. He returned back to Canada with Plaskett after the 1910 meeting. I always get scared looking at Chant. He's such a scary fellow. So here's an itinerary for Plaskett's trip. He left Ottawa on March 9th before being guaranteed that his expenses would be paid for. He stopped in three main places: Medicine Hat, Penticton, Victoria, made some brief stops like Banff and other places. And then he returned back across the US after visiting Lick, Mount Wilson, etc. But I'm just going to talk about the Canadian leg of that tour. And he got back to Ottawa in late April. So you see, this was sort of a 6-week kind of trip for him, quite long. So this itinerary is from Peter Broughton's book, Northern Star. So here we have the a map showing the CPR route in around that time. And you can see here it is. I'm just going to hide people here. Okay. Here we have Medicine Hat, yellow, and then all these stops along the way. You can see here it gets to Calgary and then goes along, gets to Banff, and then winds its way. There's Field, around Glacier Mountain, the loop there, and into Revelstoke, Sicamous. And then the CPR came down to Okanagan Landing. So that's just south of Vernon. So to get to Penticton, he had to take a boat down Okanagan Lake to get down to Penticton, and then return back up to Okanagan Landing, get on the train, and continue on his way to Vancouver, where he took another ferry to get over to Victoria. So yeah, this is a kind of a cool map, but these are the highlighted spots is where some of the places he stopped at. So his first stop again was in Toronto, and there again, there's his friend Chant. In Toronto, we have horses, policeman on a horse. And again, we can see in Toronto, this car is facing, I think, the wrong way on the road, I think. So I think in Toronto, they might have driven on the left. That's hard to tell, though. So here we are. We're now in Medicine Hat, his first stop. And here we have, I forget the name of the river. Of course, it's March, so it's all frozen over. Here we have the city of Lethbridge, quite very clear. And this is from Harper's paper. So the city, something less than 15,000 in 1913. And it's noted for its immense resources in natural gas. So in view of the cheap power thus afforded, it is claimed that here will be a manufacturing center of Western Canada. Now, usually you would not want to put a telescope near a manufacturing city with all that industrial activity, but here, because there's no smoke from natural gas, unlike coal, which was used in every other place. And so apart from the railway trains, which use coal, it is a smokeless city. And we kind of see that here. Here we have the two bridges over the river. This is the rail bridge here. And you can think, I see some of the smoke coming out. Maybe some of the smoke might be from a train going through. I don't know. But there's some smoke, but it might be steam. It's probably this time of year, it may be steam more than smoke. And over here, we have a bridge that is the Finley Bridge that opened in 1908, which is still there, still used. I don't believe this one is. I may be wrong, though. So Harper, when he got there, he looked at a little tableland north of the city which I believe is, I forget which side that is. I think that's behind me, behind the viewer of this picture. And it's only 130 feet above the level of the city. And that's where he did his observations. Here's a picture Plaskett took in the Rockies. I actually feel bad because I couldn't identify these two peaks, although I've seen them, I know them, but I can't place my names on them. If anybody knows the names, it'd be good to know. Here we have Mount Temple from looking at it from Banff. So Plaskett stopped in Banff, as did Harper. Harper did some testing in Banff, but it became very clear very quickly that Banff was not the place to put the telescope. There was really no suitable site, even among testing the conditions. There was just no really site where they could really put a telescope. So here we have some of Harper's observations, though. The star 7120, about 3.7 arc seconds separation, could more than be suspected double from the blurred image. Vega was a very diffuse image, so it was noted as a 2, where 1 is the worst. So Banff was not a promising site. Here we have a picture looking probably west from the field CPR station. There's the train departing and towards the west, all the smoke coming out of it, the rail lines. And then Plaskett turned around and took this picture maybe he took this first, probably, because here we have the train still in the station. Here's the Mount Stephen House, named after Mount Stephen, which overlooks the city. And Mount Stephen was named after a fellow named Stephen, who was one of the presidents of CPR at some point. Now, I didn't know where this was, but I zoomed in on his little arrow sign here and pointing up to Mount Stephen, which said, oh yeah, that's Field, BC. I know that. So again, all these locations I've had to kind of suss out from various hints. So here we have a postcard with Mount Stephen and the very famous Mount Stephen House. So the CPR built hotels and all along the route, because they had this rail line and they were promoting tourism along the way. So here we have another CPR station and hotel in Sicamous on Shuswap Lake. Beautiful building, no longer there. Very cool, again, sort of the end of winter, March, April, March, probably March still. I just played around. I used a service I used and I colorized it, and that's what it looks like colorized. Not bad. Looks wintry. Next stop was Penticton, and this is a sort of a 1900 kind of map of Penticton. So here we have Okanagan Lake, and I guess this is the way it was originally spelt. Here we have the site of the first jail. I'm curious that they noticed that on the map. And here's an old trail to Kelowna, the original racetrack, Lac du Chien, or Dog Lake, which was the original name for Skaha Lake, various First Nations graves and sites. And here we have the Okanagan River joining the two lakes. So the canal was not always there. And we have hunting grounds and things like that. So it's consistent with this picture, which took me a while to figure out. And this is looking south. So just off here, you can see Skaha Lake. And this is this meandering Okanagan River with marshes. And here we have the outskirts of Penticton. Here we have another site of Penticton. You can see it's lots of building going on and their construction. And this here is Mount Campbell, which is where Plaskett suggested Harper do his site testing later that year, and that is indeed where he did his tests. So Plaskett, he said to the Dr. Plaskett, this is Harper, a mountain Plaskett had previously looked over. The highest point, subsequently determined by an aneroid measuring the air pressure, is approximately 1,600 feet above the lake level. So kind of cool. Here's a picture from Mount Campbell looking over Penticton in 1913. Looks a little different now. You can see off in the distance this meandering river, which was connecting the two lakes. Yeah, so that's Penticton, 1913. So Harper noted on July 18th, the day was clear and calm, the smoke of previous days seemingly gone. The star disk having approximately their theoretical diameters of 1 arcsecond. About 3:30 a.m., humidity began to increase and seeing became somewhat steady, light rated a 4, better than Lethbridge. Of course, he did this over several nights. I'm just pulling out one night as a sample. Here's a picture. What I did was I crowdsourced where this was taken on the Facebook group for Okanagan hiking people, and they were able to help me identify this. So this is on the West Bank, west above the city, and there you see Penticton, there's Skaha, and I believe this is Plaskett's sister, Josephine Annie Plaskett. In 1913, she was living with her husband, I forget his name now, George Fraser. And I don't know if they had 2 kids then, but anyways, they were living in Penticton, and he was manager of the cannery. Now, Plaskett did visit Summerland, and so here's a picture of what I think from the Summerland's archives is called Zimmerman's Couch. So this is what would connect lower Summerland up to the higher level where the highway goes now. And here we see this twisty, narrow trail, horse-drawn wagon bringing people back and forth. This is now this is interesting. I thought this was originally Kelowna, but this is actually Giant's Head up in Summerland, and this is the back of the house that belonged to Robert Henry Agur. In 1913, he was dead, but I'm trying to figure out why Plaskett visited this. So it turns out this guy was head of the BC Fruit Growers Association for a couple of years. And so through his brother-in-law, Josephine Annie's husband, he might have made this connection. This fellow also was born in southern Western Ontario, so they may have been further family connections from further back. Anyways, it's a beautiful house. It's still there in there. And if at the end somebody wants to ask me a question about Sam McGee and Summerland, they can do that. So here's the return trip. This is Kelowna. Quite a bit of activity along the side of the lake there. You know, I mean, I lived in Kelowna. My parents lived up there. My sister still lives up there. So I recognized this right away as Kelowna. And here we have a closer view of Dilworth Mountain, which is now covered with houses worth millions and millions of dollars. So Harper writes that Victoria was reached on the 30th of July and that day was spent looking over possible places for his site testing. Beacon Hill, Gonzales Point, and the site of the new meteorological station were visited. In the afternoon, he got the use of someone's automobile and he looked at several sites: Mount Ptolemy, Mount Douglas, Strawberry Hill, Knockan Hills, and other elevations were examined. He noted, you know, from his meteorological observations, southwest winds would mitigate against elevations to the north or east of the city because that would blow all the smoke of the city in that direction. So he picked a point in Esquimalt, and there I was not affected by the smoke from the city. Now, I think at that time, it wasn't necessarily only coal, but I believe they had sawdust burners as well. So Plaskett arrived in Victoria, and here is one picture of the inner harbor taken from the legislature building. The sequoia tree, there it is, it's still there. This building was the James Bay Athletic Association's building, and that's no longer there. And this is the original CPR station, which also was designed by Rattenberry, but it's no longer there, of course. Yeah, here we have a ship in the harbor. It's really a working harbor back then. And off in the distance, we see Observatory Hill. Here's another slightly different view. I think he's lower down on the ground now. But I guess this is still the fountain that's still there. So, I mean, it's interesting that a lot of these things have been there over 100 years. Yeah, I just pulled this one because he somehow, he obviously made it up to the Malahat. And, I mean, just doesn't make it look like a very good site for an observatory, I must say. But anyway, there's a view from the Malahat. Here's a view from a little Saanich mountain. Now, somebody took the picture, or maybe had it on a timer on a tripod. I mean, I don't know if such things existed back then, but here's a guy. It could be Plaskett. Oops. And I think here is the old interurban railway, BC Electric Railway, that ran up interurban and up the peninsula. And I believe this is what we now West Saanich, maybe, or maybe this is West Saanich. This is old West Saanich, has to be. I don't know. Anyways, old picture, very cool. Here we have Inner Harbor of Victoria. Again, a very active harbor. All the steamships, a couple of sailing ships, but we really see a lot of steamships with all the black smoke pouring out of their funnels and such. So, now here's another view of from the observatory, Oak Lake and Salish Sea. So, I mean, Plaskett was a very active fellow, and I think he must have had his sight on this hill as a possible site. Although I must say, the envelope I found all these photos in was labeled Plaskett's 1913 Western trip. And the negatives were all numbered, not all, but almost everyone was numbered, but they were duplicates. So I think somehow negatives of other trips kind of got mingled in. So anyways, well, some of these may be from other trips, but Plaskett was a very avid photographer. When he was hired at the DO in 1903, there was a note in the newspaper that he was hired for the work at the Dominion Observatory, and that he was noted as one of Canada's best amateur astronomers. So his reputation as an astronomer as a photographer was known even in 1903. So Harper writes, star disk down to theoretical 1 arcsecond diameter and seemed like steel engraving. So steady and beautiful was the diffraction pattern. Transparency good, as 11th magnitude and 12th magnitude stars in Epsilon Lyra persisted. Only for a few moments was there anything but perfect seeing. Rated 4.6, so as to leave a margin for the theoretically unattainable. Spoken like a true scientist. So at the end of his paper, he has 6 conclusions. And he says, limited duration of the tests made one hesitate to pronounce authoritatively on the relative merits of the 2 places. But in view of the decided advantages which Victoria possesses in regard to a low range of temperature and steady conditions, factors without which a large reflector would be next to useless, it could hardly be gainsaid that the extra cost and inconvenience ought to be overlooked and a telescope located in Victoria. So Harper actually wrote this in 1915. I mean, all the observations, everything was done in 1913, but it actually came out in 1915. So, I mean, Harper, hands-on guy, did all the site testing. He had visited all the sites, and he was convinced that Victoria was the site. So in the end, here we have a photograph taken at the end of the official, sometime during the official opening. We have John Stanley Plaskett here. We have his wife, Reba Hemley. We have Campbell, director of Lick, and his wife. We have Ambrose Swayze of Warner and Swayze, who built the telescope and dome. And here we have the great John Brashear, a master optician who successfully polished the Plaskett 1.8 72-inch mirror at the time. And he was really known for his optics. He is a really well-known figure in Pittsburgh. He supported grants for women to learn to become science teachers. He did all sorts of philanthropic work. When he died, there was over 3,000 people came out as part of his service. And he seems like he was quite the character at the opening of the telescope in 1918. He commended Victoria in Canada on having one of the world's largest telescope. But I think he said it was the world's best telescope. You have the world's best telescope. You have the world's best observatory director, and you have the best observatory director's wife here. So he was quite the character. So I'll leave it there. I have a couple other slides. Maybe I'll show these since I think I have some time. So here we have another picture, which I believe, I'm pretty sure now, is the construction of the schoolhouse, Prospect Lake Schoolhouse. So this again, if I looked at the old newspapers, this was happening in 1913, 1914. So this may have been taken on a trip Plaskett took in 1914, but here we have the schoolhouse and we have Little Saanich Mountain behind it. I sent this picture to the archivist in Saanich and she wasn't sure, but I went to Google Earth and kind of tilted it and worked with it. And here I overlaid the color image and from Google Earth with this black and white image, and you can see that they kind of match up pretty well. So yeah, this is Little Saanich Mountain, and this is the site of the school. There we have a GIF image again showing excuse me, how well they match up. And then that's the current schoolhouse there. So again, a very different scale, different perspective, but that's where we are. And then there's a couple of mystery photographs. I have no idea who these people are. There's a couple of pictures of this woman and 3 kids. 2 kids are very happy. 1 kid doesn't look so happy. But it's not Plaskett's sister. It's not. I've checked out a number of people and can't quite nail it down. So there's work to be done. It's a real interesting challenge trying to identify the location of the photos and the people, but it's fun. It's fun to do. Okay, I'll leave it there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So are there questions for Dennis?
I've got one.
Go ahead, Randy.
I'd like you to talk about the 4 criteria again and how on them individually.
Okay, so even today, image quality is one of the prime criteria for locating a telescope. As this, for when you're doing photography or spectroscopy, the more the light is concentrated into a small area, the more efficient everything is going to be. I mean, it's a smaller area on your detector, so you get, better signal to noise and go much fainter in your direct imaging. And for a spectrograph where you have a slit, you want as much light as possible to go down the slit. So you want that to be as small as possible. While you can make the slit bigger if the scene's not very good, that will end up decreasing the resolution of your spectrograph. And actually, Plaskett did some work when he was in Ottawa, determining what the optimal width of the slit was for the star image when you get various scene, optimizing the slit width to get the best resolution, shortest exposure times. Now, the temperature gradient doesn't apply very much today, I would say. I mean, it does a little bit, but back then it was because of the glass they used for the mirrors. Okay, it would change shape with temperature. It would if you had it rapidly changing during the night, you could hardly keep the telescope in focus. You might not even be able to get a perfect best focus. So that was a real critical one. If nothing else, that would say you should be in Victoria, because it was the really deciding factor in my view. Now, of course, we have different materials, ceramics and whatever, that have basically zero coefficients of expansion. So temperature variations, well, they're still important for, but it's quite a far down the list, I would say. Clear weather was the last one. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not going to put it in Prince Rupert, but on the other hand, it has to be a sizable difference. So it's interesting because it's not just a matter of, as Plaskett said, not the number of clear nights, but it's how much work can you get in those clear nights, so it's that overall final efficiency. And I forget what the third one was. I'll have to go back. Hold on. Excuse me. The transparency. Yes. So yeah, you know, if I mean, it's clouds affect the transparency, but so does smoke. We have smoky skies here, or haze, that starlight can't get through that. So in the 20s, and I mean all through the life of the observatory, the work can be affected by smoke from wildfires, or back in the 20s from normal activities going on in the city of burning coal or sawdust, and that smoke would sometimes affect the work of the observatory. So you want sharp images, you want clear skies, and you want a lot of clear sky. Those three are still true today, but the temperature difference not so much, because we have advanced the materials we use for making mirrors and other glass products. That's why we have Pyrex. If you put a piece of glass that was used in the original telescope into an oven, it would just shatter. So
I have a question, please.
Peter has his hand up.
Jedicke's got his hand up. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. It's Pete Jedicke here from RASC London Center. Thank you to RASC Victoria Center for making this available to us across the country. Dennis, I wanted to ask you about the discovery of these photos. If I heard you right, you said that there was a box of, I presume they were astronomy plates.
No, they're the construction photos.
Okay, but so, and I think you said some of the pictures had been published in, articles and whatever, but you discovered them, and as far as no one really had been aware of these in all these years?
I think someone had, because they were in a box. I mean, I don't think anybody has scanned them or done anything with them, as far as I know. Yeah. But they were lost from memory. Let's put it that way. Nobody knew about them at the observatory, and so they were in the box with these large glass plates that Plaskett had taken during the construction. Yeah, so let me hold on a second here.
And when did you discover them, if you don't mind?
Earlier this year, maybe okay. February, March.
So pretty recent.
Yeah, and it's just amazing that that these things existed. And just I was talking with Peter Broughton earlier before that, and there was like very few photos that Plaskett took, right? And so it just, all of a sudden I've got this treasure trove of images that were taken by John Stanley Plaskett. So it's quite amazing.
So you say they were lost from memory, but were they cataloged, or
no? Nothing.
They said they were in the archive.
No, they're just in a box. They were in envelopes. So I'm just going to share my screen again. So here's one of the photos that's on one of these glass plates. So I always like asking people, well, this was taken in before 1921 or before, because January 1st, 1922, Victoria switched from driving on the left to driving on the right. So I always thought this is the photographer's car. So one day I thought, whoa, I'm going to zoom in, and there, I can see the license plate number. So after a little Googling, I found a site that has scans of all the early registration books for automobiles in BC. And this one belonged to a guy named E. Fleming. And I go to the street directory for the year, and oh, it's Edgar Fleming, photographer. Ah, that's him. So it turns out Edgar Fleming and his brother came from London and established photography business in Victoria. They split ways at some point, but I believe Plaskett hired this fellow to take photos of the construction of the telescope. What's interesting is some of these old photos I found were in old brown envelopes of Edgar Fleming, photographer. So, you know, it all fits together. Yeah, so I think, I mean, I've shared all these construction photos. I mean, here's one other one. Here's the road being, you know, as it existed. Just going to flip through these. Here we have the site being prepared, water tower, wheelbarrow. You know, there's a lot of manual work, not the big machinery we have now. And here's some steam machine. Here's the firewood for the fire, produce the steam. Probably drilling pylons for it. Here's the pier being anyway. So there were low resolution scans. And so I went up there with the intent to really produce very high resolution scans of these, have a definitive scan. So then we'll probably end up sending these glass plates to the Library and Archives Canada, where they're properly still secured and safe. Because we shouldn't have those in Victoria. They're just too valuable. And yeah.
Gary?
So Dennis,
wow, that's a real hand, not a virtual hand. I'm impressed.
I forgot how to do the virtual one. So Dennis, a common topic of conversation amongst us astrophotographers is whining about the seeing. So do you think you just got lucky with that 1 arcsecond seeing? And what do you think the seeing is now in Victoria compared to then? Are there any environmental factors that might have changed anything?
I do not know what the seeing is now. I think 1 arcsecond probably happens once in a while, but not very often. Harper did come back, because Harper during his night, so Plaskett went out in March, came back at the end of April, and you can see Harper went out very soon after, because he was in, Victoria in July. So on Harper's trip, he went down to California, and he took measurements down in California to compare, his data. It was a really good study. They wanted Mount Wilson, Lick. We know those are good sites. Let's get data there and compare it to the data I got for the sites in Canada. So he stopped in Victoria on his way back, or when he would, but that was December. Anyways, he did later in the year. He went back and got more data. But again, I think where their work was could have been better was, of course, they just did it one time. They, now when we do site testing, we take the data over numbers of years, and we, so we know we're getting data that is representative of a period, and like you say, not just a one-shot kind of thing where I just got lucky this week or something like that. So
so maybe we did get lucky. Who knows?
Yeah. So I'm just going to put up a link in the chat to the paper that was published, publications of the Dominion Observatory. Oop. What happened? Okay, hold on. Here we go. Okay, here's the link. I'll put it up in the chat. So if anybody wants to download the paper and look at the read through it and read what Harper did, there it is. You can just download that PDF file and read it.
Good, thanks.
For the time, they did a good job. I mean, they really approached it methodically. They did gathered meteorological data, narrowed down to 4 sites, and went out and, Harper was prepared. He had a list of stars, doubles, and faint stars, all the stuff he needed to try and determine all the characteristics. So, but we could have ended up in Penticton, Mount Campbell right above Penticton. Good wine up there, nice lake to swim in. So it would have been too bad. But
Dennis,
I have a question. I have a question.
Sure, John, go ahead.
The glass in the mirror, the current mirror in the Plaskett, what is it made of?
It's something called Cervit.
Okay.
And it was replaced in the early 80s, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is nice because we have the original mirror that we have up in the center of the universe, which is kind of cool to be able to show people. Here's the original mirror. So.
And is that original one crown glass?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And people may not know the story. Some will, but the mirror was cast at the factory in Belgium of the Saint-Gobain glass factory. So that was done in 1914, and Brashear was very anxious to get the mirror to get started on it. I mean, this was a golden opportunity to work on such a big mirror. So we had it sent over earlier than would have normally happened, because as part of the mirror making, you produce a flat mirror to help with testing of the shape of what you've ground into your actual mirror. But Brashear didn't want to wait for the flat to be produced. He said, "Ship me the primary mirror right away, the blank." And so it was shipped from Antwerp just less than a week before the start of the First World War. And the Saint-Gobain factory, which was right near the border with France, was destroyed very early, because one of the early fronts in the war ran right through that area, and it was destroyed. So if Brashear had not been so anxious to get working on the mirror blank, the mirror blank would have been destroyed as the factory, and Canada may never have got its telescope. So
speaking of that mirror, I have a great story about that. I stood next to Gary Lunn, our MP, one time, who's about 4'5", in front of the mirror, and he was thrilled to see that he looked about 6 feet tall. So if you have any short friends, just put them in front of that mirror and they'll be happy.
You've got one that makes me thinner?
Oh, it would have astigmatism, I guess. We all need that one.
Anyways, yeah, I have to figure out what to do with all these photographs once I've got them scanned, and how to present them to the world and make them available, because they are such a great resource. While I have everybody here, we have scanned some photos, and so I'll put that link in the chat. We had a wonderful archivist working for us for a couple of years, and she's on this call. I see Preeti is on this call, so she's the one that put all this together. So here's a link to the archival site. So the images will go in there at some point too. So all the construction photos, the building of the building of the 1.2 meter, the building of the 1950s wing, all the construction stuff is in here, as well as some other miscellaneous ones. So by the way, if you know anybody that wants to hire a great archivist, get in touch with me and I'll point you to Preeti. Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis.
Hey, you never know. You never know. You never know.
Exactly. Thank you.
So yeah, just yeah, we're very lucky. We have a very rich photographic legacy of the history of the DAO. I mean, it's probably not up there with some of the telescopes like the Lick or whatever, but or Harvard, but it's still a pretty cool collection of photos overall. I'm just scanning a bunch of photos that be more or less personal photos from Kenneth Osborne Wright, K.O. Wright, who was a director of the observatory from 65 or so to 78. So yeah, there may be other boxes up there to find, and who knows what else might be up there. Kind of I feel like an archaeologist going through and discovering things. It's kind of cool, which is fun because if I wasn't going to be an astronomer, I wanted to be an archaeologist. So it kind of what goes around comes around.
I'd like to remark how high quality those pictures are. And I guess I'm just not used to seeing pictures that era that are just so sharp and high resolution. And I think maybe your high res scans brought that out.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story. I'm going to share my screen again. I posted this one on Old Victoria Facebook group, and I think this was taken at the end of the line of the BC Electric Rail line, which ended up at Deep Cove. So I think this is up there in Deep Cove. And here's this picture. I don't think it was this one necessarily, but it was the one without the older women. But there's this picture, which is a great photo. And, you know, it's just like, great. So I posted it and someone said, no, that's not 1914. No, nobody took women didn't wear bathing suits like that, or, you know, just there's like hundreds of comments about this photo. It was crazy. But I think, you know, there were swimming clubs back then. So, you know, these were kind of, you know, maybe not professional swimmers, but they were, you know, they were serious swimmers. And so anyways, it's a great photo. It is amazing how sharp some of the photos are too. I agree. And again, Plaskett knew what he was doing, which helps. I mean, I'm scanning old family photos from the 60s, and boy, they're nowhere near as good. But I think Plaskett probably had better equipment than whatever my dad had or I had when I was in the 60s. So I did find a couple where he did double exposures. So he did make mistakes once in a while.
Well, it's really interesting, Dennis. Thank you so much for sharing that with us this evening.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, it's as I say, it's truly amazing, and to have these, and yeah, just like I say, it's a treasure trove, and it's good to be able to share them with people.
It was interesting to hear, you know, about the traveling around and how to get to Penticton too. That's quite fascinating.
Yeah, you know, it's and I always thought that there was this canal that connected the two lakes. I didn't realize it was through a marshy area. It was a meandering river stream. Yeah, kind of funny.
Great. Are there any final questions for Dennis? Well,
I have a question for people.
Sure.
So some of those, you know, old photos seem to be people are very interested in these. So I often thought it would be great if we had postcards made up of some of them and sold them at the FDA up at the center of the universe. Do you think people would buy these?
That's a good question. I think certainly, possibly there would be a market for ones of that site for sure, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking more of the ones of the construction of the telescope and things.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there might be, Dennis. I've been madly saving each one of the photographs you popped up there because they're just so amazing to see what existed way back then, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's neat to see that one that looks like it was on West Saanich Road. You can see the observatory up on the hill behind it. You can kind of picture that today, but it looks very different.
Certainly have some of those construction photos available would be quite interesting for people to see what the conditions were like at the time the telescope was built.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's people who are living in the city today. Those are their ancestors, you know, working on the telescope.
When we had the anniversary photo of the Plaskett at the information table, lots of people were interested in that postcard, and I don't even know whether we have any left.
No, good. Okay. Maybe I'll look into talk to the FDO. We'll see about getting some postcards made up for when next year, where everybody comes up and visits again.
Great. Well, thank you so much again.
Welcome.
So I think Randy and David, did you have something, or individually or together, or?
I have an announcement for the coming weekend, but I don't know what Randy had in mind.
Well,
Randy, did you want to speak
I have
first?
something, but we're going to do something joint on September 13.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's Randy and I are planning to do, I guess, the presentation on RASC, I guess.
Yeah.
That's just my observations of it.
Right. Okay, we'll see how that one plays out, because that's our first night of actually having potentially an in-person Astro Cafe too. So
right.
So we'll see how we do have the portable rented as of September 13th. So yeah, we'll see what happens over the next month with respect to I guess the COVID numbers here, and to I guess the general consensus of whether we want to I guess limit the number of people who are there in person potentially. At the moment, my understanding is the Fairfield Gonzalez Community Association does not particularly have a capacity other than the fire marshal capacity for that room. So they have not lowered it, so we can fill it at this point, but do we want to do that, I guess? So we'll have to think about that and see what happens in the next couple of weeks, I guess. Okay, so
so Chris, while I'm here, I may as well, I'll just share my screen here. So this Saturday, I'm hosting an astrophotography panel of a number of people. There are many of who are present tonight. So we have 8 astrophotographers, including our student facilitator, who are going to be sort of presenting some of their favorite photos. So it should be a good evening. I encourage everybody to show up on Saturday night.
Cool. Thank you. Yes, and I'll try and remember to include that in the announcement for that I send out on Saturday for Astro Cafe, just as a reminder, as that's on the day. Sid, you had some things.
Unmute myself.
Yes.
What's
Hello.
Great. Yeah, great presentation by Dennis. Very exciting to see how it came about, the big dome, and yes. Anyway, I have only a few slides to show. As everyone knows, that this year's Perseid meteor showers was slated to be the best, because the moon was going to hide itself. And lo and behold, I was so excited to go outside on a reclining chair and observe the meteors coming here and there and there. And this finally, the weatherman brought this wind direction coming from the mainland. It completely kiboshed my visual observing. But however, my sight was able to capture a few good bright spots coming through the smoke, and I was to share those. So I will share, that goes there. Okay, we will start with this one. This was done on 12th of.
It hasn't appeared yet for us, Sid. Did it confirm?
Say it again, please.
Well, we are not seeing your screen yet. So you have to share screen and
okay, of
confirm
course.
it.
I have to share. I have to share the screen.
We haven't hacked into your computer yet, Sid.
No, that's right. Okay, we will start with this one. Could you see this?
It's coming up now. There it is.
Ooh.
Wow.
Wow.
So though a lot of visual observers missed of these exciting bright streaks, because the smoke, we were not able to get outside. I closed all my windows and turned everything off and keep the air, whatever the air in the house, stay in the air because of the smoky conditions. The camera did not mind the smoke, but it's able to capture few of these bright spots. And this
Sid, is this a single frame?
No, it's a composite of 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
2
it's
hours.
a composite of 2 hours. As you could see the center, I don't know whether you could see my cursor. Yeah, somewhere it's,
Yeah, we can.
yeah, it's coming in the center. So it's coming here and there. And then I will go to the next one.
Sid, can you explain what we're looking at here, please? I mean, I'm just.
Well, we are looking at Perseid meteor shower.
No, but like, what's the in the middle towards the bottom? There's all these.
Those are the planes. Those are plane streaks.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sid, if it's 2 hours, how come the stars aren't streaking?
Oh, because they are not stars. They are fault in the sensor.
Okay.
Hot pixels.
Hot pixels on the sensor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good observation, Randy. Yeah. Okay, so then this one. This is also a 2 hours composite.
Okay, it didn't change?
Yeah, see the change here.
No, it didn't change. We're still looking at the original one.
No.
Zoom has a nasty feature that if you only share the one window, that's all you share.
Oh.
You have to share the desktop.
Sid, share the top left corner screen. That's your desktop. Then anytime you make a change, we'll see it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, could you see this one?
Stop. No, you'll need to stop share and reshare.
Oh, stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing. It should be near the top there. There should be a little red thing that says stop sharing under the.
Oh, stop share. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so when you go to share this time, the upper right thing says screen, share that.
Okay. I'm going to share.
Or upper left or top left.
Yeah, screen.
Yeah, and that allows you to change what we're seeing.
Okay. Could you see this?
So that's the one I think you showed us. So now if you change it, we should see the other one.
Yeah. Should I close this first?
No, I think you just change it.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. How about this one?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's a busy one.
Yeah, that's a busy one.
So what night was this, Sid?
Oh, this was on 12th.
Okay.
12th
Because
night.
someone on the National Forum shared that there was an outburst one night on the 14th, I think, where over 3 hours they saw almost 400 Perseids.
Oh, well, they must have a good weather, good conditions.
Well, it was just there was an outburst. It was one of those times when the sky just sort of explodes.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't forecast. It just sort of happened.
Yeah.
And it was dark where they were at the right time, I guess.
Right time, yeah. Now, people who don't know what equipment I have all sky camera here. And it has been working from the 10 years at least. Oh, must be more than that. Yeah. So this camera is 24/7. It captures the image if there's a change in view. If there's an airplane or there's a streak, if I turn the outside light off, it senses change. So it captures it. And once a day, all these images are transferred to Florida State University because they manage all these all-sky cameras. We have 2 on the island, and number of those in Okanagan, and a few in Washington State, Oregon, California, and I'm pretty sure that there's more in North America and some other places in the world. But this site is. We have 2. One is in Courtney, one is in Victoria here. Yeah. So these are the Perseid meteor showers, the 2 slides which I have shown. However, when I looked at my old data on the computer and saw two more, one was in July, and I'm going to show that. And this one, could you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is
Wow.
not a, what they call it, predicted meteor shower. It's a simply sporadic. I don't know which one is. This happened in July 13th, this one.
Mhm.
So I
Very
have
neat.
one, yeah, seems quite good, yeah. And I have-
Sid,
Yes,
Sid, your site is actually publicly accessible, isn't it?
it is correct, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyone
so we could browse through your
definitely,
all
yeah,
sky
you could,
images.
yeah. Actually, all sites managed by All Sky Camera Network, they're all sites are accessible. Yeah. So I'm going to show this one more, and quite dandy. Yeah. So this looks like a big explosion. Yeah. A number of years ago, John and Reg wrote an article in our national magazine, and where they analyzed, actually John took some images, happened to be taking some images, and he saw this cloud of gas and the plasma drifting along. Maybe John can explain better if he's still here. Yeah. So this happened in February of this year. February 23rd.
So do you think this is the plasma gas lit up on this
Well,
particular
looks
one?
like that to me, yeah.
It looks like it, Sid.
Yeah.
The one that we got was a Gemini. It was in
That's
December,
right, yeah, yeah.
But this looks a bit like that.
Yeah.
The thing I captured was I caught the meteor streak, and then I got the gas or plasma thing lasted
drifting.
for quite a long time afterwards. I got several pictures of it.
Yeah, so that's what that was out at Cattle Point the night before the smoke rolled in, and saw a dozen meteorites, but a couple there were evident like smoke trails after the light faded. So is that what we're seeing there? Is we're seeing plasma? True.
Smoke trails are usually termed fireballs, but they're meteors.
Yeah, they're meteors, but the meteor went through, but then there was you could see what appeared to be like a smoke trail that was persisted for a few seconds after.
That happens.
Actually,
The one that I saw, Brian, lasted for several minutes. It was quite long.
Yeah, you could see clearly in John's image how it's drifting. That's, well, I won't say smoke, it's simply a plasma drifting.
It was called a meteor train.
Yeah.
I don't know why that word, but that's what they used.
Well, I've seen some of the meteors from Blackfoot where they leave a sparkling trail behind them, and then you actually do see the smoke in behind the sparkling trail. So it depends on the meteor. Some of them do that. I don't know that the Perseids are particularly famous for that. I have seen the Perseid shower from southeastern Alberta when we saw several bolides as well.
Anyway, that's what I have. So maybe I will post my site URL so you could access anytime. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. Now I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you send us that link in the chat, that would be great.
Yeah.
Chris, that's a very good segue for what I'd like to show.
Okay.
So, first, I just want to show off Christopher Go on Facebook has been planning for this night all year because this was it last night or the 15th was the triple transit on Jupiter. But what's delightful is on his website, he actually there's a video, an hour-long video of him talking with his friends in the Philippines as this was happening, and they were all just in disbelief at how wonderful it was seeing what is it? It's Ganymede eclipsing Europa. So you can actually see the shadow of Ganymede on Europa, and you can see the shadows coalesced on the disk of Jupiter. And you know, he's one of the great planetary photographers, but this one just blew him away. He was so happy.
He does some amazing work. That's something else.
Okay, so I want to talk about the Perseids as, let me just move this. Come on, there's a way to move this. There, good. Yeah, so here is the constellation Perseus. Joel Weatherly took this picture. It's a real picture, and then he put the lines on it. And just to kind of orient ourselves, here is the double cluster, and that's called the, I think it's called the alpha cluster of Perseus, right around the brightest star in Perseus. And you've got, come on, C, Capella down here. These are, and Cassiopeia up here. So that's where you're supposed to be seeing as the radiant. And there's lots of pictures where that works. So this one is from Ontario, and there's Andromeda, there's the double cluster, there's the Perseus cluster, there's the Pleiades, there's Capella, and the radiant is right where it's supposed to be. Great. And so this is Joel Weatherly again. There's Andromeda galaxy, double cluster, Perseus cluster, Pleiades, Capella, and you know, there's a couple of sporadics around, but the center is where it's supposed to be. Great. But this is what I got. Okay, this is out my window. I have so much light pollution that this was a 30-second exposure, as John had suggested last week. And that is the cluster in Perseus. There's Capella. So the radiant should be around here. And it just bugs me that this beautiful picture, and it's a sporadic. It just happens to be kind of in the right place. And then here, I've got this guy. It's, you know, the radiant should be up here. And then there's this one. This one looks just fine. So these are 30-second exposures. So 2 happened in this one. This was around 1 o'clock in the morning on the 12th. So, you know, what's supposed to be happening is we're going through this path. The Earth is traveling through the debris coming off the Swift-Tuttle comet. It was renewed in 1992, I believe. And in fact, the count has gone down by about a factor 2 over those 30 years. But it gets renewed every 133 years. Who's James Younger from Victoria? Does anybody know?
Not a name I know.
Anyway, he posted on, I saw it on
James
Facebook.
Younger actually works or had worked up at the observatory for many years.
Oh, good.
That's Frank Younger.
Oh, sorry. Maybe his brother then, who knows? Not a very common name.
Anyway, so that's Perseus there. So this one is coming up from the right place. I love this picture. Look at that. There's this meteor there, and he also caught it in this puddle. Spectacular picture. But this one is the one that wins the internet. It was the astronomy picture of the day. And just to make sure that it's actually the right thing you can see, here's the double cluster and the big Perseus cluster and Capella, the center. This is indeed a Perseid shower, but what he's got is this wide angle lens. So, you know, this is right behind him looking forward, and that's I think that's Jupiter there, and it's amazing picture. But you also have to, I blew up this part, like what's going on with this foreground scene? Quite amazing. Anyway,
very cool.
This picture definitely wins the internet for the Perseids this year.
Good Photoshop.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a single picture, but I think he didn't. I don't think we would call this cheating. I think this is just really good processing.
Which is cheating.
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Very good. Okay, I've got a few Edmonton photos, so let's I'll just put those up there. And
yeah, just two. This was from August, the night of August the 11th, August the 12th. So the first one is a panel of 5 photos that Alistair took with a 70mm lens of noctilucent clouds. Probably just about the last one they're going to see this year, I would guess, given the amount of smoke they've had lately. And then the next one is just a zoomed in portion.
I'll just go back for a second there. So kind of looking at this area here.
Yeah,
there it is.
And that's the giveaway that's NLCs, is the wispy nature of the clouds and the ripples that you see in them. That's very common for NLCs.
Did have a nice setting moon in the last picture.
Yes, it did. That's Alistair. He always seems to find something in the foreground.
Yeah. Very
He
nice.
took this out somewhere near one of the Hutterite colonies east of Edmonton.
So it's pretty dark there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see too much light. So. Great. Well, thank you for sharing those. John, if you want to show us something tonight. And you're muted.
Is Dave Payne still here?
Yes, he is.
Because
Yeah.
Dave, with your permission, I'm going to show some stuff that was your captures, my processing. So
you don't need my permission. Go
Team effort.
okay. So oops. Yeah, I just got to share the screen, I guess. Okay, can you see my desktop now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and so, whoops. So these are pictures that images that Dave Payne captured of the Cave Nebula, and most of you will probably have seen his lovely picture in the on Zenfolio. Anyway, he kindly let me have access to his data, and I've been having fun with it ever since. And Dave hasn't seen these yet, so this is new for him too. But what's neat about this is he had a total of 14 hours of total integration time. And he's got our filters for red, green, blue, and luminance, but also H alpha, O3, and silicon narrow band. So I'm just going to run through these and show you what I did with them. First of all, this is my best effort to get a good image, and this is actually, I used the red, green, blue, and luminance, but also I used H alpha to add a little bit more luminance. This is just more or less, I guess, what you would see, except it's enhanced a bit, because this is just red, green, blue, and luminance, nothing else. This one is the H alpha channel just by itself in black and white. This is using the Hubble palette on only the narrow band stuff. So this would be O3, H alpha, and S2. And I don't like the Hubble palette, but I did it anyway. Some people really like this kind of coloring. And this is a palette that Juan Perez, who's the PixInsight guru, devised. And he thinks that it gives a sort of lifelike picture from narrowband imaging. I'm not sure if that's true, but anyway, that's what it gives. And this is my attempt to use all of the filters, all of them. And I used the script in PixInsight that will combine all of any narrowband filters you want with the RGB. And I kind of like this one. It's bizarre colors, but I really do like it. And this is back to my favorite one of all of them. That's all I've got to show.
John,
Hope
could
you
you
like
go
those,
to
David? I will put those in Zenfolio shortly.
John? Could you go to the Hubble palette image, please? So, I mean, I'm curious as to H alpha is red. Normally, people think of it as red. So I'm wondering, how does this not look red? I mean, I'm just very confused.
The Hubble palette does not use natural colors.
Oh.
A lot of the first pictures that came out were described as being in a Hubble palette, and they were chosen by a woman. Her last name is English at the University of Winnipeg.
J.N. English.
J.N. English, that's it. Who said that we're crazy to use the colors that we do because they don't represent the warmth or coolness that we're trying to describe in the sky. So you can take it or leave it. I'm not crazy about it, but that's it. And that palette uses S2 is used for red. H alpha is used for green. And O3 is used for blue. That's the Hubble palette.
Okay, thanks for that explanation. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think often they take the green out of it, like they color balance the green out. You just leave enough green in to maintain a white.
I just took it the way it came. I tried to get all of the ones that I put together were more or less balanced to begin with, but the H alpha is pretty strong. So when you turn it green, it makes a very green image.
I would switch the H alpha and sulfur too myself. I mean,
well,
she's got it in the right order wavelength wise, but yeah. So if I was in Photoshop, I would go into the channel mixer.
I didn't like it either. I mean, I liked this better, and I actually like this one better still.
Yeah, this actually to me looks what I would think of as natural, although I have no idea. But
yeah.
Very
Anyway,
nice,
really,
very nice work, John. Very nice work.
It was really fun to work on this data because it's such beautiful data, Dave.
Yeah.
Really, really crisp and lovely. And
I love the raging colors of the stars. I mean, it really captures that very well.
I worked pretty hard to get the star colors coming out very brightly. Star colors, of course, you often lose from overexposure, but Dave did a good job of exposing these things nicely.
Oh, you both did very well with this. I really like it.
Yeah, I love also how that dark nebula just blots out the stars.
Yeah, I guess this is the cave nebula over here. But
Yeah.
you've got all this beautiful dark nebula stuff over here too, which is really neat.
Peter, you have a question?
Does anyone know if these beautiful star colors actually represent the B-V color index of the stars in any reasonable, repeatable way?
I have not tried to do photometry on this. One could, but I haven't done that. I'm just really trying to bring out the color, the natural color that comes out. And there's a lot of these beautiful red stars, and then of course all kinds of blue ones, hot blue stars. This is what Jan English didn't like. She didn't like that the hot stars were blue because hot should be red according to the way we think of things. And the red stars are the cool ones.
Yeah, but astronomically, hot stars are blue. Sorry.
I think
That's
Jan
the way
knows
the black
enough.
body curve works.
Yeah, I think Jan knows enough astronomy that, you know, she wouldn't make that as a mistake. She may have had artistic reasons for proposing that, but she wouldn't have made that as a mistake.
I will
No,
just
I
make
think
one.
I think she had very good artistic reasons for doing it.
I'll make one
And
comment.
Hubble bought her ideas and used them quite a bit.
Yeah. I'll just make one comment. Jan is a radio astronomer, just to let you know.
Oh, is she, as well as an artist?
Yes.
You know, there's one palette that you would take to make it aesthetically pleasing, but it might be a different palette that you would use to see details more.
Yeah, and the fun thing about having this kind of data available is, you know, you can, with all the combination of red, green, blue, and the 3 narrow band filters, you've got an almost infinite number of possible choices for range of colors.
Yeah, that's something I would make a point of right away, is that you have so much data here you can choose. It's a marvelous opportunity for sure.
That's why I went crazy and did so many of these, and I'll probably keep on doing more.
I'm very impressed in the margin areas between the dark nebula and the emission. There's a huge amount of detail in those particular regions.
Well, this it really has a very rich area. I mean, there's emission nebula, but there's reflection nebulas in here. There's just all kinds of stuff all in one picture.
Yeah, no, but it's great data, and then John, you've done a great job mixing it.
Yeah, that nebula on the right-hand side, just in my interpretation of that data, it was kind of two-dimensional and flat looking. Not so in yours. So
I've made I kept a log of everything I did with these, Dave. So you and I can get together on Zoom or something, and I can show you quite a bit of what I've done if you want to know.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
I have a question for David. Nothing to do with any of this, but my mother's maiden name was Payne. And her family came from Jersey in the Channel Islands. So I'm curious where your family came from.
Not from Jersey, but I thought there might be a Channel Island connection somewhere. But no, my folks came in the 50s.
Okay. That's interesting because over there, the name was Payne without the E, and they anglicized it when they immigrated to Canada.
Oh,
Well, thank you for showing that, John. That was great. Lauri, you wanted to say a few words?
Yes, I just wanted to thank a number of people who helped yesterday with Diane's celebration, specifically Randy Enkin, Reg Dunkley, Gary Sedan, Chuck Filtness, and Gord Bell, who was Diane's brother, and they were the ones who were able to get us to the museum. And I think it was so nice to be able to see everybody in person rather than on the screen. So I was really very happy to have that. We also have got some pictures. I know that Joe Carr has already posted some pictures, and then David Lee and Chris Gaynor. Oh, sorry, Chris Gaynor, of course, also helped out because he had the medal. And Chris and David were also going to post some pictures as well for us when that comes. So thanks to everybody who helped out for that. And David, did you talk about the Wednesday night program?
I didn't, but I can do that actually if you like.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the UVic open house is happening this Wednesday night. Same URL as always for those of you who have attended. Otherwise, we can give you the URL to it. I think they're planning on having a discussion about climate change and how it relates to astronomers. So that's the topic for this week.
Yeah, they're having two people, Jeff Bennett and Travis Rector, are going to be discussing. Those are two astronomers, and they're going to be doing some discussion, and it's going to be the beginning of a series that they're going to be doing on the relationship between astronomy and the environment and global warming and things. And I think it's a great new topic to work on. So that will be done. And then
yeah, I'm kind of sorry. I think we might be missing that, Lauri, because
yes, yeah,
of the exoplanet.
So hopefully, maybe some others of you might be able to get into that, because it looks like it's something a little bit different than they've done for a while, and might be really interesting to see what happens with that for sure. And of course,
so it's also part of a series. I think Karun said it was going to be part of a series, so
yes,
it'd be interesting
yeah.
going forward.
So is this going to be the first part? So yeah, and then looking forward to David's talk on with everybody else. Yay! On Saturday night for the Star Party. We hope everybody will join into the Star Party, because it's going to be great. It's going to be good. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Lauri. And Dave Payne, did you want to round out this evening?
Sure. I just briefly showed a work in progress last week, so I just wanted to show how it turned out. So this is how my Andromeda mosaic turned out that I showed you unprocessed last week. So it's really just a 1x2 mosaic, but a very large format camera, high resolution camera. The problem with these things is, where do you show it? Because it kind of belies the resolution that's in there. And I'll just zoom in for a second. You can actually see the little bits of nebulosity and the blueness of the young stars in the outer arms, and a lot of the detail in the dust clouds. But how do you actually display such a beast? Um, um, I am a little bit proud of it because you can barely make out the seam where the two pictures join. I'm just going to zoom in again just for a second. You can see this funny looking colored star right here. So there is a color change that's taking place there. You can see a little band of fuzziness. But again, when you back out, you can't really tell that it's there. But there's some neat double stars, and even saw what I think are a couple of background galaxies in there somewhere. So it's fun to go play Where's Waldo with this thing.
David, are the points within the Milky Way, or are some of those from Andromeda?
Like anything that you would say is a star definitely is in the Milky Way. So, and I don't know if I zoom in again, you can see these little blue dots. I really don't know if those are stars or some sort of artifacts.
I think those are probably bright stars in Andromeda, would be my guess.
Like
A lot of the fuzzy blobs are globular clusters in Andromeda.
A lot of globular clusters, though.
Yeah, I think it's
There's
too
something
many.
like 600 globular clusters, you know, in a photo like this.
Oh yeah.
I remember doing one not as detailed as this, but I was able to find a map of the clusters in the galaxy and match them up to the things that were sort of star-like, but they actually were clusters. I don't know, in this one you may be seeing some stars, I can't tell. But
Well,
there are a lot of
I'm going to chase that up then.
Yeah.
And Dave, this is beautiful. There is a ultra high definition image of Andromeda out there already that you can compare this to. And it's my feeling that the blue stars are actually stars in Andromeda based on what that was. You can keep going. This is gorgeous. This belongs on your wall, Dave. Or maybe my wall.
Yeah. It is a nice job, David.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, David, very nice job. Did you manually align them, or did you use software to align them?
Well, I used PixInsight and a recipe that I got off a tutorial on the web.
Gorgeous.
Were the images taken on the same night?
Yeah, over 2 nights in reverse order. So I thought I was being clever by taking the left half of the image at the beginning of the night, then the right hand side of the image in the morning, if you will. And then I think it was 2 nights later, I did the reverse.
Beautiful.
So the left-hand part is a little bit older image of the galaxy than the right-hand side. By one day.
On average, they're the same age.
The bright image in the center, is that a star within our galaxy, or is that the center of Andromeda?
That's the center of Andromeda, and it's really hard to manage. To me, it's a little too pinky. I'd prefer a little bit more orange than that, but it's very bright. And so you lose a lot of the detail in there, but it's just how bright the center of Andromeda is. And it's just so wonky that it bothers me though. Like it's on various planes, and it's a result of disturbances by other galaxies, I figure. But it should be flat. Anyways, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for showing that. That's come along great, although I didn't see it last week. So thank you everyone for participating and sharing this evening. I think that's it for this evening, unless there are any final words. John will be your host next Monday, 23rd. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any final messages. Yes, no, going. Well, I guess we'll say good night, everyone. Good
night.
And thank you again to Dennis for that for the special presentation. That was great.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
Yes.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.